to write, and I thought working on an MFA would give me more time to work on my writing, take it somewhere, and it's taken me somewhere, I guess.
To Maine.
To Maine, eventually, via Rhode Island.
One of the characteristics of Rhianne that I find so wonderful, as I was mentioning before, is her facility with what we would consider this kind of low cultural idiom. Like you say, she's smart, but she hasn't had that classical education that even her friend Penny gets at Yale, right? I mean, she doesn't have access to that world. But you keep alluding to her, you know, forever first year of college where she's meeting this, I imagine, composition or English instructor who is sleeping with her. You know, there's kind of this power thing going on.
Inappropriate relationship there.
Yeah, there's a weird relationship.
Right.
But it seems like she's, how can I put this, that it's not the only thing he's pounding into her is himself. It's his sort of linguistic ideas about post-structuralism, about slippages and meaning.
Exactly.
And I wonder if you could speak a little bit about that. Sorry to be so crass, class, a moment ago. This is for internet consumption, though.
Well, the book is kind of crass if you think about it. I think you've hit the nail on the head that she doesn't want to admit it because she eventually, after a few interludes with this fellow, she comes to realize that that's not what she wants to do, and she's never guilty about it. She doesn't feel bad about doing it. She doesn't think there's anything wrong, but she more or less just gets bored with the whole thing at some point and literally walks away. But there's something about what he's been saying, because she quotes him several times. She'll say things like, well, guess where I learned that from? And you don't have to guess because it's so blatant, right? But she doesn't even want to mention the guy's name, which she never does mention. She just refers to him as that teacher or that guy or something like that. But you're absolutely right. She has learned from him, and she's picked up just enough of the vocabulary, I think, and this was another hard thing to do in the writing, picked up just enough to cause trouble for herself and to kind of add to this sense of the world that she ends up having by the end of the book because of what goes on between her and Cloyd, and what goes on between Cloyd and other people as well. So that was a really intriguing part of the book for me, to give her just enough words where she could maybe, I guess the best way to describe it is just get herself even deeper into this sort of abyss that she finds herself approaching throughout the whole book. So a combination of sex and teaching, which I don't recommend for most people, and I never get that involved with anyone in my classes, but they're kind of similar, and I think your crass metaphor of pounding it into her is not inappropriate, even if it is a little crass, Davis.
Thank you. Other questions from the audience, people who haven't had a chance to ask. This is your chance to talk to a real live author. We've encased him behind a screen so you won't be damaged by his dangerous ideas. But let's have some other people come up. All right. Good. We've got another volunteer.
All right. Very good.
Hi, I'm Angie.
Hi, Angie.
I was just wondering if you outlined your book before you wrote it, or you just started writing it and then went through drafts and stuff like that.
I never had an outline. I had kind of a rough idea of this young woman who starts out living in her parents' K car after all these horrible things have happened to her, and slowly crawling out from that. But I really wasn't sure exactly where it was going until maybe 50 or 100 pages. I suddenly realized what it was all going to lead to. So I always had, from that point on, kind of an end point in mind. And one of the hard things was, well, how am I going to get her from this place to that place in a way that seems viable, that people won't see as kind of two-staged. But then I also started to realize that I kind of wanted it to be a little staged, because I wanted people to be able to interpret the events that start happening more and more towards the end of the book in at least two different ways, so that you're always uncertain. Well, is Cloyd Shoup this, or is he this other thing? How much of this is actually reliable? Can we trust Rhianne? In fact, can she even trust herself, I guess, is what I wanted to do. So no outline in between the beginning and the end, but a lot of dead ends definitely along the way. I've got probably as many chapters that are in the book. There are at least as many that aren't in the book because they just weren't the right thing, and they were taking the whole story in a way that I wasn't interested in ultimately and just didn't seem to be doing any work.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, thank you.
Okay. Hi. Rianne seems more, I know she's influenced by the Fall River accent you said, but it seems she's more influenced by the lifestyle of a lot of Boston suburbs in general. Like, my family's from Randolph, Mass.
Oh, yeah, not too far away.
Yeah, not too far away at all. And I know a ton of people who are very similar, like floating through community college.
Yeah, exactly.
No religious know-it-alls, though they don't really know much.
There are know-it-alls who know nothing.
Yes, exactly. I wonder, where are you from, that area? Because it seems a very huge resemblance.
Well, I guess I should take that as a compliment, right? Because I'm not from that area, but I've passed through it and I have some experience with it. So I'm glad to hear that you, who actually live out that way, find it somewhat like the way it actually is out there. I'm from southern New England, grew up in the New Haven area of Connecticut.
I'm from Wallingford, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my best friends moved to Wallingford when I was in 5th grade, and it really made me cry the day he left town.
Oh, trance.
Yeah, still to this day, it's horrible.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, the general southern New England region, and then more recently, my wife's a professor in Bristol, Rhode Island at Roger Williams University, and we have a house there as well as a house here. We divide our time back and forth. So I am kind of familiar with that area, but it seems to have a real, I guess, power to it. I mean, there's something actually there that makes that region have a character, whereas a lot of places are just kind of bland and homogenized. That's kind of like an old enclave of the way it's always been over there. So I'm really happy to hear that maybe I did capture that.
Yeah, no, the sarcastic tone is definitely there. I mean, every one of my members of my family is very sarcastic, as Rianne is. So
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Well, maybe they'll
not at her level, but. Oh, thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Someone else, someone we haven't heard from. Good.
Come on down.
Hello, I'm Nadia.
Hi, Nadia.
I have a question. Could you please talk about, I'm curious, the theme of the machines? Because we have the washing machines, and we have the people as, their bodies as being machines. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, I guess on the basic level, the washing machines are supposed to be kind of one of these goofy but eerie things that I'm interested in terms of some of the characters who play a very important role in Rianne's life. The machines in particular, I think once you get to the end of the book, maybe that'll make a little bit more sense. But as she sort of develops her worldview, or her inability to have a worldview, she stops thinking about people as these organic things, and she starts more and more to see that they respond in very machine-like ways. So that washing machine corral that Cloyd Shoup runs, although he never does any work there, right? I mean, he doesn't ever sell any washing machines. It just seems to exist there. Starts to figure larger and larger in her imagination. And she starts to see that people are more or less like machines. They're warm. You can have sex with them, whereas you probably wouldn't do that with a washing machine. Although I have heard the washing machine referred to as the housewife's friend. So maybe you can have sex with a washing machine, but she really stops believing in people as having souls and even minds by the end of the book. So all she does is she sees them as these complete, not robots, not uncaring, not considerate, not mean, not emotionless, but she just stops believing in any distinction between us and them. And as you can tell throughout the book, she is always referring